Afternoon, Year 12. I hope you're well on this rainy day. Me and Polly are here. Morning, afternoon, just woken up. As Year 12s at this stage of the year, normally you would be talking to me about university choices and what your next steps are. And so I thought what I'd do, if in about 10 minutes, just explain to you what you should be picking and how the strategic plan you've got to create for yourself to work out where you've got to go, because there are lots of opportunities for you, lots of choices. How do you go about picking the course you want to do and where you want to go? I mean, you'll change your mind lots of times, and that's generally what happens over the 2 years and then into the future. Now, I never thought I'd be an assistant head teacher. I wanted to play football for Liverpool, but that didn't pan out. Warnstow was the place for me. But you've got to have some sort of idea. So I thought what I'd do was talk about that, okay, and help you sort of get your ideas in the line. So when I see you in September properly, we can have a proper talk. Okay. I know some of you have been attending Open Days, and also you went to Exeter University to do those residential experiences as well, which is really good. You've got those, and I know because of COVID you haven't been able to go on virtual normal Open Days, so you've had a virtual Open Day. So attend them. That's always useful as well if you can. That's another thing that you can be doing at this stage. Okay. You're going to be applying through what's called UCAS, University and College Admissions Service. I mean, that's what it's called. Okay. And if we look at this little diagram, you'll apply this year, September. UCAS Apply 2021. Okay. Your application form, which I'll talk about in a minute, I may do a little bit more of a talk. We'll go to the UCAS setup in Cheltenham, and then what happens is that your application form will go to 5 different universities, or 5 different courses, or 2 courses at one university, but 5 different destinations, or 5 courses. Okay, it's not in any order. I mean, generally students apply to 5 universities, but you don't have to. Okay, there's no order, so even if you put as your 5th choice, it used to be like that. It's not like that anymore. And then they'll decide, and then they'll make you an offer, a conditional offer on the condition that you get so many points or have certain grades, and that comes back to UCAS, and that goes back to you, and then you make your decision. But that's further down the line. At the minute, you're just starting to think about doing this, but really, it's all about your Open Days and your course search, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. Okay, so next Monday, live lessons begin. You'll be having lessons with your teachers using Google Meet. You'll also be talking to your tutors, and they can talk to you about all this as well, all this university choices, how to go about it, and so on. So that's a help for you, but also you'll have different opinions about where you want to go, and this is one opinion really about how to approach it all. Speak to me, email me, speak to your tutors, and I'll try and give you some sort of ideas. I mean, I've been choosing people for university and helping them apply to university for 15 years. So I've got some sort of background and idea about what to do, but it changes all the time. That's what careers and where you want to go for your future is all about. So, but don't worry about it. It's an exciting time, okay? And it's just, you just got to start thinking about it now, okay?
What's that?
Okay, so you're going to be applying to university. We're looking at it for university, but the same sort of procedure can be for looking at jobs and gap year and apprenticeships as well, really. But first thing you got to do is, well, you've got to decide what you want to do, but it's quite hard to think about what degree you'd like to do. I mean, you're going to apply to be an undergraduate. When you finish your 3 years at university, you graduate, or graduate even, you are a graduate, okay? And you do an honours degree, and often that's a BA or BSc, and there's lots of other different ones as well, with an honours behind it. And it's normally 3 years, sometimes they are 4 years, sometimes they're 2 years, sometimes you have a year out and you go to industry or you go abroad. There's lots of different types, and sometimes you get like a joint honours one where you can do geography and say economics, and where all the modules are sort of split up. There's lots of different ideas out there. Now, you'll be applying in September right through to January, okay? If you're applying for Oxbridge or medicine or vet, it's all got to be done by October the 15th, okay? So it's all systems go pretty quickly when we get back into university and get back to school. Okay, but before all that begins, what should you be doing now? At your leisure, not rushing, thinking about it, talking to lots of different people. Everyone's got lots of opinions about futures and courses and jobs and so on. Work experience has dried up for the minute, but we'll look at how we're going to approach that when you get back, okay? And there'll be lots of opportunities, hopefully in year 13, so you can go for a week and go and work somewhere. Perhaps, like, for example, go and work in a primary school for a week, like you would have done this time normally, okay? So first thing you should do is you look at I think the best place to start really is the UCAS website, okay? Don't know why I've done a small a there, a little a UCAS website, and you go to UCAS course search. That's a good starting point. You type in the subject you want to read, okay, and it lists them all and all the different places where you can study it, and there's links to different university guides and different ratings, and it goes links to the actual course you're studying as well, and you can sort of like refine it, you can filter it so you can go to different regions of the country too, whether you want to go to Scotland, whether you want to go to South East England, south of England, North West, North East, Ireland, Wales and so on. There's lots of different places. Okay, so that's UCAS course search. And say for example you wanted to pick geography, for example, if you type in geography and there's a search filter, you can do geography with lots of other subjects, and so you can look at what else is out there and you can click on and just do some searching to start with and just enjoy the search. So that's the first thing you should be doing, is looking at UCAS course search. Also, when you're looking for subjects, okay, that what you want to do, you've got to consider lots of different factors, and you'll find if you've considered all these different factors, you'll be amazed how quickly the list shrinks. Okay, so things like, for example, I would consider, well, firstly you look at the course, okay, have a look at the different courses, but also do you want to be near the sea? Do you want to be near a big city or a little city? Maybe London, or do you want to be in a more sort of provincial town or city, for example? Do you want to be close to home? You know, Exeter, Plymouth, we have quite a few that go in the southwest, but do you want to spread your wings and go further afield? Okay. You also need to look at student satisfaction, and if you go onto lots of different websites, there are places that rank universities according to whether they get a job at the end of it or whether they've enjoyed the teaching, and there's lots of different sort of websites like that, for example. And there's also on Facebook they talk about different student rooms and chat rooms and so on, but you've got things like use UCAS as a good search start, okay, going through that, but also you've got Unistats that compares universities and talks about it. You've got Discover University, that's all sort of linked to that as well. What Uni, that's another one. Okay, the Times do university lists, as do lots of other places, and they've got different gradings. So have a look at that. That's another way of looking at different courses. But ultimately, you've got to choose where you want to go and what you want to do, and that's a start. So how else could you do that? Well, we've got another thing we've offered this year, which is Unifrog, which is a search tool, just like UCAS course search really, except it's more refined. It filters subjects, and you put in your grades, expected grades, and you're realistically optimistic is what they say. Okay, and then you put in where you fancy going to the university, which region of the country you'd like to do, and the courses you fancy doing as well. And they'll make lists for you. They'll make a secure list for you, and they'll make an aspirational list. So, you know, if you think I'm a sort of A/B candidate, I'm going to stretch myself and look at places that need a grade A in, say, geography, for example, then that could be in your aspirational list. You'll find that often the better the university, the higher the entry requirements. And that's another factor that you've got to take into account, is entry requirements. Okay? But entry requirements is another one. Also, we look at the idea of what's called a Russell Group University. Russell Group universities are sort of the old classic universities where they're known for their research, and but there are other universities now that used to be the polytechnics back in the 80s, and they've been modernised, and they're universities, and they have much more modern courses with links to other careers and different jobs and industries as well. And so you need to look at them. Places like UE in Bristol is a very popular one for us in Budehaven. Also, like University of Bristol is a good place, but often the courses they differ. Some they offer that certain subjects at UE and not at Bristol University. Okay, so that's something to consider as well. So what I would do then, so you've got your subject. Once you've chosen a course, but you'll change your mind, have a go, and then it might make you change your mind anyway. If you picked geography, you think actually I don't fancy that now. I've looked at all the different courses. I fancy doing biology, or actually I might do a retail management or some other sort of courses that are out there. And that's the journey. You'll go on a zigzag and you'll go backwards and forwards, and that's what it's all about at this stage of the game. Okay. Ideally, by September, when I see you and meet you for your individual tutorials and so on, I want 10 courses that you've selected. Not 10 universities, 10 courses, because you can go 5 courses at one university if you want to, and we have students that apply to one university and do 3 courses, apply for 3 courses there. But that's another step. Anyway, so the first step of the game in this June, July, August time is just to think about where you're going to go and what you fancy doing, okay? And then you can also, another thing that you can actually do in this time is what's called UCAS Apply, okay, 2021, which is basically your application form. I've just set it up on the website, okay? There is a buzzword that you need to put in so that it's linked to me, and if you email me, I can send that to you. I won't say it on this, okay? And basically that's like a 5-page application form which has all the bits and bobs. So you put your address, your subject choices, your GCSE scores, and then you're the big one, which is that personal statement. Now I've got lots and lots of examples of personal statements. I've gathered over the years lots of examples, but in a nutshell, a personal statement really is you've got to come across as somebody who really loves that subject. It's all about the subject. So if you pick geography as a degree, the personal statement must sing geography. I mean, you could suggest that you've done like D.V. Gold and all these sort of things, and you've worked in a local shop, or you've worked for the RNLI, and those sort of things, or you've been a school president, or you've worked in the school council, or you've raised money for charity. That's all good, but also you need to have lots of opinion about geography issues and what you've done that's directly related to geography with the personal statement. And I can give you loads of help with that, and that's the next step, and that's what you'll start to do properly really in September, October, when you're thinking of actually clicking a button and sending your application on here. But what you can do is register on UCAS Apply 2021 now. You can do that today, and then that's there. You can start filling in some of your name and address and all that sort of business on there as well, and it just saves as it goes. It's an online form. Then I write you a reference, I predict your grades, and it gets sent off. But we're running ahead of ourselves now. What this talk is really at the minute is just to think about where you fancy going. Another thing that actually I thought about just then is with these factors is if you want to as well. Another one is, do you want to go to a collegiate university where you have your accommodation in one part of the city and place where you study another part of the city, like that goes on in London. So you have to think about travelling at night and travelling and the cost and so on like that. And there are lots of very traditional Russell Group universities that are collegiate. So you might fancy that, but then you might also say, actually, no, I quite fancy a campus university. I went to Birmingham University, and that was a campus university, and that's where everything is on site. So you live there, you go out there, you study there, you play football or any sort of sport there. It's all on one site, so that saves money as well. So that's another factor. Okay, you've got to discuss all these things, but what I want you to do in this next 2 months really is just to have a think. Consider these factors. Go on to the UCAS website, UCAS course search. Start looking. You can fill in your application. Start filling in your application form. You could use Unifrog and start making your list, and just get looking. So it might bring up the idea that you might fancy a gap year. That's another issue. But my advice with gap years here is if you're going to do that, make sure you've got something planned. Don't just say you're going to have one and then the time just drifts along and you haven't got any money. And in these current situations, you've got to think about that very carefully. But that's another issue. And anyway, all of this information I'll sit and talk to you about. Your tutors will. They've got lots of experienced people at school, and we can get there. All right? Okay, so I hope that's useful. Okay, if you have any questions, then please email me. Email your teachers. I'm going to be on Google Meets anyway for the next lots of weeks, just to talk and so on as well. So feel free to ask me then as well. But to be honest, what you should be doing is just start thinking about it. Start making some plans. If you can make some lists, then you can show me, or you can start talking about it. But what I must say to you is, don't worry about it. It's a really exciting time of your life, making choices, and it's natural to think, I don't know what I want to do in my future. Okay? But you need to start thinking about, okay, what sort of things do I really want to do? You don't want to be an engineer, you might want to be an architect. There's lots of things that you can filter out, okay? And your 3 A-levels that you have chosen will direct you to some level, okay? But you need to just take your time, seek advice, speak to your parents, speak to people that are in different jobs and so on, so that if you are thinking about going to university, you've got some sort of opinion when I see you in September. Okay? Thanks for listening.